What is happening now is something that should have happened so long ago. I mean, it's outrageous to think that the Houthis could shut down 80 to 90% of shipping through the Suez Canal, fire at U.S. warships multiple times, deny U.S. warships from moving through the Suez Canal themselves because of the danger of all of this. And we take that and we sit back on our hands and watch this taking place and say that, and don't admit to ourselves, this is strategic failure. We got to do something about this. We're the world's global leader, and we're going to step forward and do it. And finally, this is happening. I think countries of the world looking at it are saying, thank God for the United States.
Oh, yeah. Thank God for the United States. Countries around the world are saying, I think it's exactly the opposite. Countries are saying, what in the hell is going on with the United States right now? Why would they go down a path that I just laid out the logic of it? It has almost no chance for success, is the exact opposite of what Trump himself has said in the past. And now he seems to be aligning with neocons. I mean, Cotton and Keene were two of the worst. And now they're all together on this, singing from the same sheet of music. And and obviously John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, all in the Bomb Iran group. And now Trump seems to be on with it. And listen, I'm gonna have to call the bullpen here. I need some help in trying to come to grips with what's going on here. So I'm going to pull Gary in here, and we're going to try to see if we can't figure out what in the world's going on, because the situation now is continuing to escalate. It'd be one thing, Gary, if it was just where we had here, but as you can pop up on the screen here, a little bit of stuff. Here's yesterday a press release from the Pentagon talking about that in line with President's direction to achieve peace through strength, the Secretary of Defense directed the Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group to remain in the U.S. Central Command area of responsibility in support of regional deterrence and force protection efforts. Following completion of a scheduled exercise in the Indo-Pacific region, the Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group will arrive in the CENTCOM AOR to continue promoting regional stability, deter aggression, and protect the free flow of commerce in the region. Gary, who's blocking free flow of transit in the region, and why do we have a second carrier strike group coming to the Middle East?
Well, Danny, I cannot answer that. It's just his modus operandi right now is provoke. It seems that that's what he thinks, and as you just heard General Keane say, is their style, and that's where they're going, Danny.
Yeah, and let me get a little bit more specific. There's also 30% of our bomber fleet, our strategic bomber fleet, has been sent to the Indian Ocean and to the Diego Garcia. That's basically where we would launch any sustained operations against them. You see there, the Pentagon has used 30% of the Air Force's stealth bomber fleet. Okay, so you got two aircraft carrier strike groups. You have 30% of our strategic bomber strength. Now then, even on the tactical level, there's also A-10s. Tactical air is moving in. And those are for close air support. Those are A-10 Warthogs. These were really famous during the Gulf War when I was actually fighting. And those things are so you're seeing strategic and tactical assets here. And let me just show you, just let me give you an idea here for the region. Here's a map of where a lot of the assets are. They're probably too small for you to see on the screen, but you see there, there's the Middle East. And of course, Iran is just up a little bit north of that. There's Saudi Arabia up in the upper left-hand corner. And all around that, you see all kinds of warships and air power that are stationed around there. There's Diego Garcia. You can see kind of in the middle, if you can look real carefully, in blue. It's an island out in the middle of the ocean there, which is within strike range, easy strike range of the Iranian country there. And if you could put that other screen up, Gary. Yeah, this is so you can read some of it. This is what the U.S. Navy has in the region with the Harry Truman Strike Group. All those ships there. The French Navy has some forces also in the Gulf of Eden. There's additional, and I didn't put it on the screen, additional European Navy assets in the area. And then, of course, the U.S. Air Power Diego Garcia with the bombers. And there's another thing. The last one there is also noteworthy because it says 6 KC-135 Stratotankers, 6 of them. That is a huge number, and those are necessary to sustain air operations. So if you're going to have a sustained air capability, you have to have the ability to have these the Air Force on the carriers and maybe even launched from other places. They have to have refueling in the air to be able to get to the targets in Iran and get back. We saw some of that during the 2 times the U.S. air and naval power helped Israel attack into Iran where they had refueling, et cetera, in the air. So the fact that we got 6 there, I mean, man, Gary, that whole map, that looks to me like we've already made a decision we're going to war. What does it look like to you?
Yeah, my gosh, Dan, I was going to ask you, is this unprecedented? This show of force, this amount of power, all at one time? Is this
Yeah, I'd
unprecedented?
have to check the rules. I'm not aware of any. We've sent aircraft carrier strike. In fact, we had 2 during some of these attacks into Iran. But I'm not aware of a continued or of a comprehensive situation where you had the strike groups plus the air tankers plus the tactical air plus the strategic bomber force all at the same time. That I have never seen.
They have built in the redundancy here, boy. They're not taking any chances. And Danny, when they deploy like that, what's the turnaround time for having to come back and to refuel and to inventory everything? Inventory meaning their food and everything like that.
Yeah, that's something that would have to be sustained, and that would take a lot of logistics to do as well. So that's something that would stress the system. So that's the kind of deal to where you're like, okay, you get more than a month or 2 of this, and it's going to start to really be a problem for the rest of your global force packages everywhere else. So that kind of tells you that really within a couple of month period here, I mean, you could go further, but it's going to not without cost elsewhere. So that kind of implies to me that that's the time frame somebody's looking at here, that we either do something or we don't do something within 2 months. But, you know, I mean, how can this work out, Gary? Because we've put our names out on this and said, this is what we're doing. How can we not do it and save face?
I was going to say, the only upside is that nothing happens, because otherwise, the downside, if anything happens. Danny, let me ask you this: with the amount of power they have there, is a lot of it defensive rather than off? I mean, obviously it's offensive, but meaning that they're putting it there just to protect our men that are in the arena. But there's like 50,000. We have 50,000 troops thereabout.
Yeah.
In the arena.
Yeah, we do. And no, this is all offensive. I mean, we have existing, obviously we wouldn't have our troops, in all these places without defensive capabilities. Like I said, tactical air defenses in some of the smaller bases, strategic defenses at some of our bigger air bases and naval bases. So yeah, this is all additional offensive firepower.
Oh, yeah, but I guess what I meant is that I think you have said in the past that these bases that are there really cannot defend themselves to any extent. They can do some minimal defensive maneuvering, but obviously, if Iran really wanted to rain down like what they did to Israel to our bases there, they don't have the capabilities to fend that off. Is that correct?
That is right. That's what we've had Ted Postel on, the MIT professor, who detailed why that is, because of the kind of missiles. We had Mike Domino, who's currently the Assistant Secretary of Defense right now. He was elevated up for that. He was on our show, and he talked about how, look, these bases don't have the air defense capacity to move off a strategic strike from Iran. They can do the smaller stuff, which they have successfully done against these militia, but not against a state actor like Iran. So they're completely vulnerable. And if Iran makes good on this threat that you saw the IRGC guy have, the Americans are going to die. It's as simple as that. I just can't see how it's any other way.
I agree, Danny. It's to say we're playing with fire is an understatement.
And Gary, help me out here. What is the motivation here? Now, I say that partially tongue in cheek, because this headline here, if you could toss that last one up there, maybe kind of gives an idea here. But I like to think it's not as simple as that. This is from last month, where Netanyahu vows to finish the job against Iran with support for Trump. I mean, when you read that and then you see what that map I just showed you, the force power that's force packages that have been put into area, kind of looks like Trump is just doing this. Can it be that he just ditched everything that we just showed you, where he was so passionately in 2016, to now get ready to do this because Netanyahu wants it? I mean, can it be that simple?
Danny, all evidence that there is that Trump is so cozy with Netanyahu, and there's a lot of people that are aghast at it, obviously, and I don't know what else to attribute the moves that he's making, except that I hate to even say that he's Netanyahu's puppet.
And I just, it's very puzzling to me, because everything about Trump has always been America first. When he first came into office this second term here, he signed an actual memorandum or executive order, America first foreign policy, by name. He put that in there. And I look at all of these things that were unfolded here, and I'm like, where is any American national interest? They don't threaten us. They have, despite all of these attacks and all these things that have happened, going back really all the way back to the Gulf War, and certainly all these things in the last 18 months where Israel attacked the Iranian embassy. They assassinated somebody inside their capital city. They've assassinated a bunch of other leaders in Kuwait, and not Kuwait, but Beirut and several other places. And they haven't gone to a nuclear program. So they don't pose a threat. And conventionally, they're a middle in power. They're weak. They're even weaker now than they've ever been. So there is no actual American interest, much less vital national interest or threat, that would necessitate this. And at some point, we have to just be able to call a spade, Gary. I think we do.
Yeah, and you know what, Danny, is that Trump doesn't even seem like he's conflicted about it at all. It's going to be, he's basically saying it's my way or the highway. And there's no hesitancy in his pursuit at the moment. I don't see him backing down.
And look, Gary, I got to think that there are plenty of people inside the administration that are screaming, this is a bad idea. I mean, I know some people who are in some of the key positions, and I know what their positions are. And I can't imagine that privately they're not conveying those. And yet, as you just said, I don't see any evidence of even a confliction on Trump's mind. And I got to think, if all these people are telling you this, why would you take this action that has like a 90% probability of backfiring and blowing up in your face and undoing everything that you're trying to do domestically? That's the part that I'm having a hard time coming to grips with.
Yeah, Dan, I don't know. I think if it's the money, if it's the allegiance that he's given to the powers that be, the Israel lobby, Netanyahu, it's clouding his other inclinations to avoid war, and he's tossed it to the side. He's kicked it to the side when he looks at the Middle East.
What do you think the chances are, Gary, that this could start eroding Trump's even MAGA support? It was anecdotal, I admit that, but I saw a tweet this morning by a guy who was an adamant pro-Trump MAGA guy, bragged about or was proud about how he voted for Trump, but he said this issue specifically, he said, I'm like, the guy said, what in the hell is he doing? Potentially starting a war with Iran, which is not in our interest. I voted for him because he was against that kind of stuff. That's one guy, but I got to think that if he does this, he risks losing that support.
Yeah. Oh, Danny, there is a tidal wave of feeling of betrayal with Trump taking the actions that he is now. There's myriad voices out there saying this very thing. People like Dave Smith. I mean, it could go down the list where they believe that Trump has really gone back on what his promises of being wanting and promoting peace. This is now what you're talking out of both sides of your mouth now. You say one thing about Ukraine, and it's a totally different situation when you're dealing with the Middle East, and it's not what you told us you were going to do and who you were going to be. So it indeed is a huge. And
it's if you're only interested in just self-preservation, I mean, there is a midterm election coming up now, closer on the horizon, and this is not going to play well with your base. When you're talking about you need legislative help here, and we already have the Republicans have a razor thin margin in the House as it is. And that could, I mean, you talk about a blue wave. I mean, you could usher the thing in by doing something like this that goes against. If you lose the support of your own emphatic supporters here, then you literally invite a blue wave to come in here, which means your legislative agenda gets frozen for the last 2 years. So why would he want to risk that?
Oh, and then think, Denny, on top of that, if there is no peace deal with Ukraine and Russia, and this does roll on and on and on, he's losing on both sides. Everything that he had planned to do, that he was going to do in the first day before he even was in office, he said he was going to finish. And here he's got two bigger messes than what he originally came in with. He's at a very troublesome time for himself, I think.
Yeah. If we had more time, I'd love to roll all over the Russia-Ukraine stuff, because that looks like that we're playing right into Putin's hands, because he has these requirements and we're trying to we're mad about them because they're not doing what Trump wants, but they're never going to do what Trump is asking for. So he could literally play that into watching as Russia just rolls across what's left of Ukraine. We'll talk about that.
So Danny, the great art of the deal maker can't do it on either end. He's coming up empty-handed in both theaters, right? If that ends up what happening, my gosh.
And you can even
all go ahead.
You can give him a benefit of the doubt on the Russia stuff. He maybe overplayed his hand, but man, the other one would be a 100% unforced error. That doesn't need to even be on the table. Now, all I can hope is that he's going to be getting some good advice in here, and that he's going to find some way to look. You can do classic politician stuff and just say, "Oh, well, we got everything squared away with Iran, and now they're not going to do anything to far east, and they're not going to go. So we're going to use we're just going to use sanctions or whatever." I think sanctions are a dumb thing, but if that keeps us from going to war, then use the sanctions tool, to prevent doing that. So I hope that those kinds of common sense or rational thoughts seep into the conversation here. A separate issue with Netanyahu, he would be upset, but we'll have to deal with that another day. But we need to worry about American interests first and foremost.
Indeed.
Well, anyway, we'll see how it goes out. As we say all the time, until bombs are falling, there's still time for diplomacy. There's still a chance to come up with a better idea and to avoid the bad ideas. And let's hope and pray we continue to go down that line, and we will keep everybody informed of exactly what's happening and the risk to each of these courses of action, because people deserve to know there is an alternative to this one, and it is better for us. And because we're unafraid and unintimidated and uncompromised, we will keep bringing it to them.
Amen.